Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy. I'm Matt Wolff, founder, CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we have Cameron Hughes in the Wolff Den.
Let's
Welcome.
go.
Wolff
Let's go.
Den.
Let's go. Let's raise the cheer today, Matt.
We don't get the crowds that you're generally used to here live for the Wolff Den, but they'll start pouring in once they see who I'm talking to today, and then afterwards on the replay. For those in the audience who don't know who you are, give us a quick intro, and then we'll get into everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the guy that's at the stadium who gets up at timeouts and gets the crowd rallied, bring the spark, bring the cheer. I've been doing it for 25 plus years around the world, and from everything from NHL, NBA, U.S. Open, minor league games. So I've been, I think it's 42 states, Matt, 9 provinces, and 10 countries. So I've been around.
You're from Canada, so this all
makes
started.
sense, right? It makes sense that a Canadian would do this.
So it's obviously hockey is where it started. So I don't usually go to the start. I like to go backwards, but how did this all start? Because I go to a lot of games. My friends and I cheer, and nobody's paying us or calling me to come to their game.
Well, it's funny you think of that because people are like, wait a minute, it just doesn't make sense, right? But I was doing it back like 28 years ago at an NHL hockey game, and nobody was cheering. It was like minus 100 out, brand new team. They weren't very good, and I got up at the right time at the right place and started to get the crowd going, and they were like, we love this. Do you want to come back? And I'm like, what do you want me to do? And they're like, just dance and get the crowd going. I'm like, yeah, sign me up. And, the next year the first year they gave me all sorts of memorabilia. And then the next year they paid me, a bit of money. And then I realized if it works in Ottawa, why wouldn't it work in Toronto? And then, eventually I went down to the States, and you realize, Matt, that crowds all really at the end of the day, there's a difference in attitude walking into a lot of stadiums from fans. But at the end of the day, crowds from what I've experienced around the world, they want the same things,
Yeah, there was a movie, and I can't remember. I'm terrible. I'm going to think about what was the movie where with the talk show, and they were paying the guy would show up on all these different talk shows, and then he became famous. Did you see that movie?
No, but I need to.
Oh man, was it on Netflix? It'll come to me. So the guy, I mean, this has happened. They do pay people to come and fill crowds, whether it's a talk show or an award show. You're obviously a little bit different because there's only one Cameron coming to the stadium, right? There's not Camerons littered throughout.
Yeah, I mean, I go to the game, I put on the jersey and I, fill that role for the night to be it's never like, oh, our fans aren't good enough. It's more like, let's add more value and fun and excitement to the game by bringing me in for that night or that weekend homestand or whatever it is, And there's a lot of different acts in sports, that fill up halftime shows or, that, play different roles in arenas. So I'm just the crazy guy who throws T-shirts and acts like the wild fan from your team for that night.
Who was your team growing up? Because when you started this, Ottawa didn't have a hockey team.
Yeah, Ottawa did not have a hockey team. I was a Montreal Canadiens fan, in hockey, and then NBA didn't really, I followed it a bit, and always wanted to, it's a story that I've told a few times. Always wanted to kind of go to MSG and see what that was all about. But yeah, I was just a kid growing up that loved hockey and wasn't a very good athlete. So I filled my role in high school as the guy that led the spirit team, so to speak. Without the uniform, I was just like crazy face paint, and that's where it all started. And I talk to people. I do a lot of talks, and it's like you talk about like building a foundation in life, and I'm like, wait a minute. When you look back on where you were in high school and university, I was like, oh, this kind of makes sense, right? Where you end up.
I think in the yearbook we called him the class clown.
I've been called a lot of things. That'd be up there.
Actually, I mean, it's a compliment in a way.
Yeah, I mean, look at now it is, right?
Yeah, now it's a compliment.
Yeah, well, you made a living. Oh, so that's a good thing. That you know what I mean. I should actually do a little thing on that. Raise your hand if you're a class clown. Don't worry, it'll pay off later.
Yeah, well, it's funny because my friend Brent, who usually he'll chime in here at some point, but he always gets mad at his son, who is always cracking jokes in class to get everyone to laugh, but it gets him in trouble. And it's like I get he's upset, but on the other hand, that's where careers are born, almost, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's when you find like this little spark in you, and you realize you have these gifts or talents. And truly, that happened for me in high school too. Like I was the least talented guy in high school, but I was the most fearless. And then I had a teacher who said, "Hey, embrace that, idea that you're pretty good at this. You should get up on stage more and get people into it." So it's pretty funny looking back on where it all starts for, these wacky sort of careers and, different stories that we all have.
So it starts in Ottawa. You do the game just by yourself. That's just who you are. You're at the game going nuts, and they say, "All right, we'd love to have you back." From there, where did you get noticed, and how did the job start coming in?
Yeah, I realized that I went to Toronto, and Toronto was like, way bigger media and way bigger hockey team. So I went to Toronto and did a Leaf game, Toronto Maple Leaf game. They showed me on TV, and it was the moment. It was really the moment where I was driving back, and all my friends back home were like, "Hey, you were all over TV. They were talking about you," and I was like, "Oh, well, maybe I should do this for a living. Like, if it works, They paid me $50 extra. And then I started just to show up at all these other events, in the US. And then I got a booking agent from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And he represented Crazy George, Morgana the Kissing Bandit, Little Elvis, Chainsaw Juggler, Myron Noodleman, all these different characters. And I was like, there's an industry for this? What?
Well, Morgana is probably the most famous of them.
Yeah, I mean, she was making, I don't know how much she was making, but it was more about the opportunity. Like the doors could open to cool opportunities.
So this is actually a good test case, or like you were going to games on your own, not getting paid, doing stuff to garner attention and kind of be like, maybe like, hey, what's going to work here? What is this crowd like? And then also having the opportunity to get attention. It seems like it's almost you're practicing, but you need a live event and crowd to practice and interact with.
Well, yeah, I mean, I literally used to have these VHS tapes or beta, whatever this is, VHS, and I'd send them to teams, and I'd never hear back. You know what I mean? They're like, "Who's this crazy guy?" So I would just show up instead and say, "This is what I do. This is the value that I add to your, fan experience, and you want to hire me." And sometimes it would work really well. Other times they were like, "Get out of here, buddy." But I had some hits and misses, that's for sure. And it's pretty humbling, when it's a miss. But that's the goal, was to see, can I do this? And what is there a marketplace for it?
Well, first of all, my mom, you can send the VHS to my mom. She still has a dual VHS DVD player.
You let me know what's on it.
She loves it. She'll let you know. She'll play it, and she'll might be able to convert it to a DVD. I don't know. We'll have to test it out with her. We had a friend of the show, Kosha Dills, is a freestyle rapper, and he goes out. He's all over the place. He was just in the Super Bowl outside. He's outside the Grammys and all these awards. And he actually got, inside and on stage with Fat Joe. And he I don't know if he coined the phrase, but his catchphrase now is, "We're outside until we're inside." And so that's kind of your story, where we're doing this. You weren't outside, you're in at the event, but until you're in with the team. And it's such a great story about doing what you're passionate about. Going out there and doing it, not because someone's paying you, although you do it because someone's paying you, but because you want to do it and you want to see, what it could be for fans. And I mean, there's a lot of fans who do. I'm going to be looking around to see who are these, which fans are doing this, and which fans are, maybe kind of just trying to get on. Like, everyone wants to get on the Jumbotron these days, right? So they do some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
What and now I feel like also a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing is staged, which I'm not a huge fan of, depending on what it is. So
yeah,
how do you navigate that?
I'm the last guy to have mixed feelings on being staged, but I think it's more like when it's a full-on minute and a half skit where, he's proposing and then the beer falls on him or her, and then the usher comes. Like, some of that stuff's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know what I mean? Like, that's never just you watch it, you're like, the second it starts, it's contrived, right?
Yeah.
And then I look at what I do and it's like, well, it's, I set up the video where it's like, it comes to me and I'm like, oh, here I am. I should do something. So it's not that different, but it's more like I'm trying to get the crowd into it more, try to be a little crazier, trying to add a little spark. I'm not trying to be, a little catchy about, like a skit. You know what I mean? I just want to electrify the experience more. And at the end of the day, Matt,
live, right?
What's that?
Your video at the games are live, not
it's all live for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, at the end of the day, like every game I do comes back to that first night when I got up in Ottawa, where from my heart I genuinely wanted people just to have a little more fun. Let's get into the game. And when I don't know, you can see the videos when I go to Vegas or Cleveland. It's like the fans are having a great time, but they're just like, oh, wait a minute, watch this, right?
Yeah, sometimes you need and how do you know which section to be at? That's the
I don't know. I mean,
if you hit a bad section, that's like having a bad crowd at an improv. Your jokes might kill the night before, but now you're at a bad section.
Yeah, I mean, when I start out, you try to figure out where to go, where people in that section will get into it, and then the rest of the stadium sees you on the video board. But after that, I just go off and freelance all over the stadium. So you've got to pick the right spots, and sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But my whole thing is once you sort of parts of the crowd see what you do, the rest want to be part of it, right?
Yeah. So I told you my sister. I was talking to my sister Meredith, who was. I said, I got a great guest today. You're gonna love it, and it's saying what you do. And she's like, is that the guy at the U.S. Open who takes off all his shirts? And I'm like, yeah, that's him. My sister is a huge tennis fan. Loves going to the U.S. Open every year. She's been to a ton of French Opens too, except lately with COVID. The U.S. Open, so that's a little bit of a different environment than your normal one because you're there every year. They know exactly what you're going to be doing, and it still kills. So it's not necessarily just the element of surprise. It's now you're a part of this event, which is a little bit different than if you got it when you're first time at someone's event and they don't know who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I did the U.S. Open for 8 years, and every night, you wouldn't know who's the first time being there or if they've seen me before. And I think that's the whole thing. I mean, even if I've done 70 games with the Vegas Golden Knights, and it's definitely every game there's someone's first time, right? And I think for the U.S. Open, the crowds would be different on a Tuesday than they were on a Saturday, right? New fans would come in. So, yeah, I mean, the element of surprise of like, wait a minute, there's this guy during a break during a tennis match going absolutely nuts, getting the crowd going, and you're like, what? This is not going to work, I mean, it wasn't necessarily easy getting in the door there, but once I did, they were like, oh, we need this during the breaks. The fans need this. We got to keep the energy going. And the cool thing that happened for me is the players started to see it, and they would be asked about it, and then I'd have funny interactions with like Novak and Rafa and Roger, like just things that happen completely like out of the blue. And you realize how much they appreciate fan engagement and energy, right? And I was just happened to be there on those nights.
The Djokovic had some really great things to say about he really enjoys seeing you every year. And it's I imagine the first time is you're wearing all these shirts, people are looking at you like, because it's not always like so cold there at that time for the Open. Like you're walking around with all these shirts, someone's like, what's going on with this guy?
I remember being there once, like, yeah, it can be pretty like humid, right? In the end of August, September. And I'm about to go, and I've got like 7 or 8 shirts on. I've got a layered shirt, and they're like, you think that the next whistle or not whistle, but the next break in action, you're gonna go. Like I just know because I watch the score, and and then it's like 5-2, and whoever's about to win, and it's like 5-all, and I'm like still waiting there, and I'm dripping, and I'm like I can't breathe, and I'm like, oh my god, is this worth it?
The answer is it's always worth it. That's the answer, is that it's always worth it.
You know, it is. It is. And it's like, I travel all the time, and I always joke when I'm on the road traveling. I'm like, I get paid to travel. The rest, I'd go to the U.S. Open for free, right? But it's
you might even pay to go to the U.S. Open, like
exactly.
Some of us peons.
And it's so cool that, the people you get to meet from, I've met lifelong friends just sitting in the crowd before a game starting, and they're like, I did the rodeo in Vegas, and I'd be sitting beside the guy, and I wouldn't tell him what I was about to do. And you just start chatting and stories. And then I'm like, excuse me, give me 1 second. I'd get up and then be like, what the heck?
And they're involved because they're next to you. I mean, they're
involved. Yeah, you're right. You see them on the video, and I've had a few times where the guy or girl or woman next to me is just like, what are you doing? And then, you know what I mean? Oh, well, you can't.
That's fair, because I see a lot of people in the crowd, and I think half of them are annoying. I do. It just depends on what they're doing and how they're doing it. Now, you're not there to. Some people are. It's just the way that they're doing it.
Well,
you don't like to do the wave.
You can't I can't critique / be too hard on fans for wanting to be involved. But there is a line. There's always a line of being rude and obnoxious versus funny, engaging, trying to get the crowd going. And there are definitely fans, and you've been to a lot of games. I've been to a lot of games where you're like, hey, there's a line here. There's kids here, or you're just not funny,
Yeah. Most people are just not funny. They're not as funny as they think they are.
It's not working. Just like,
Yeah. Some people hate the wave. How do you feel about the wave?
I think the wave at the right time is brilliant. Personally, I think it's I think it's there aren't many other sort of crowd events, techniques, moments that can involve an entire stadium. There
was did you see the clip the other day? It was college basketball with with Moses, and Moses was going back and forth, and all of a sudden the fans split and Moses walks right up.
It was amazing.
Unbelievable. I mean, to get that, when you get a wave going the full way, and it's something. I don't stand up anymore. I'm tall, so I just go like this. But if you can get the full wave going, if you can get something like that, to have that is unbelievable. And now we talk about, I don't know how big of a college football fan you are, but there's so many great traditions. Wisconsin has the jump around, and in the fourth quarter, and they're all doing jump around. The Gators have, now we sing Won't Back Down with Tom Petty, and the whole entire stadium. There's something about stadium interaction. If I'm at a concert in the stadium and the band stops playing in the stadium, I get chills at some of that stuff. The crowd participation.
Yeah. And then there's Silent Night. Do you know that one?
Where's that?
I believe it's a college team where they're not allowed to cheer or make noise until the team's got 10 points.
Oh,
and then I think that's it. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone out there, but at 10 points, the place goes nuts. It's a Christmas game, and it's you're not allowed to speak or make any noise until that moment. And I look at those traditions, and I look at those moments, and it's everything, right? I mean, it's like making fans come alive in a way that it's bigger than all of us. It's this community coming together. And that's why, for me, if I go to a minor league game and the team's winning 5-2 and it's under 8 minutes to go and there's, thousands of kids there, of course I'm going to get the wave going. You know what I mean? They love it. I did the wave in Vegas once, and we had the backup goalie was doing it, so you never know.
How many times in a game can you interact before people might catch on? Or I guess it doesn't even matter. You're a mascot that's not wearing a costume, so it doesn't really matter if they catch on. But is there a point where people see the difference between you're just a fan?
Well, I think after the first time I do my hit, depending on how far I go with the T-shirts, and then if I get up again, you know what I mean? The second time, people are like, "Oh, he's still going," right? And at that moment, people are like, "Oh, okay, he's part of the show," and then it's like this permission just to turn it up a notch.
Do you have to stay till the end of every game?
That's funny, because I've had a few team presidents that I've asked over the years to send me quotes, and they say he's the only act that stays full game. The rest leave. So, I mean, do I have to? Depends on the game and flow. But at the end of the day, if it's a close game and I'm the guy that can get an entire stadium doing "Go Cavs, go," yeah, I'll stay.
I don't leave games early. That's why I was just curious. I
Yeah.
would imagine if you don't have if it's I'm sure there's some games you'll be like, all right, we've done enough. We've done all we can do here.
Yeah, they're definitely you feel them out, you read them out, and then but you get emotionally invested too. If it's a close game.
Yeah. Well, I imagine so. The U.S. Open, Vegas, those are kind of crowds that have a visitor type feel to it, right? So there's a common theme why you're maybe doing Vegas. But what is it about Vegas? Is it that there's new crowds all the time that you seem to be doing a lot of events? You don't live in Vegas. You're in Canada, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I was at the first Vegas game, exhibition game. I think the Vegas thing and the Vegas phenomena was like from the first game, the mindset was come, be yourself. We'll celebrate all of you, right? You know how some teams in sports like will make the Friday, Saturday games bigger or the Sunday matinee. Vegas is like act as crazy on a Wednesday against a lower level team as you would on a Saturday against a rival team. And then they try stuff. They like they have showgirls on the glass during warmups, trying to like taunt the opposing players. They have Cirque du Soleil perform during intermissions. I did an intro twice now with the Blue Man Group, where part of my face is painted blue. That's not going to work in other cities, right? So they push it and they turn it up a notch as well.
We're doing a partner ticket working with the Savannah Bananas. We've had Jesse Cole. Do you know the Savannah Bananas? Because they kind of are.
Where's my banana gear? I know Jesse. Yeah, of course, I know Jesse. I know his book. I've been on his podcast, and I love what they're doing. I love it's a mindset, right, Matt? Like they created a mindset of what it's like to be involved with that organization. When you get the T-shirt, when you go to the game, you feel part of something that's like special, and they've done an amazing job of that.
Yeah, Joe. I mean, they're fans first. We're fans first. You're all about the fan experience, and I think enhancing the fan experience is so underrated and not done well in a lot of ways. I'll give you an example. I was at the Field of Dreams game in Iowa. It was a made-for-TV event. I mean, everything they did was for the fan watching at home, and it's not that it was bad. It's just that they cared a lot more about the fan watching at home than they did the person who actually took the time and money to be there. And so, with that, they're going to sell out that game anytime they play it, right? It's going to be a huge demand. But not every team has the luxury of just people are going to show up. So what are you going to do for the fan to get them there, to get them excited about being there live, and to get them to come back? You've been to a ton of games, obviously. You being there is one of them. But what do you see out there that teams are doing for fans that you thought was kind of unique and cool and that you've been a part of because you're at a game? Now you're a fan at a game when you're not working.
Yeah, I mean it's a funny concept because I've been to a lot of all-star special events where and it's completely made for TV. I just went to one and it's an all-star game. And I'm like, did you guys forget that there's fans here that paid a ton of money to come here? And the way they set up the stage, the way they did everything was all for TV. And I'm a believer in finding that balance because if you're watching the game and you see the crowd like lit up and having fun and they're into it, then you get extra excited watching at home if they show that, and they should show that. I think that's the other thing is, a broadcaster should show when there are great moments in the crowds. That's something that, to answer your question, I've seen that before where they actually show the wave and they talk about how, lit up this arena is tonight or how, showing fans doing certain things. I think that's an important part of the overall picture so that people want to come and be part of that experience. In terms of what I've seen, I mean, everything from, in Vegas, they have 5-minute or 4-minute, literally it's the second period and they turn the arena into a club every game and the lights go down, the disco balls come up and it's a full on 5-minute DJ set. And it's insane. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you just you feel it. And then you come into the third period and you're like, One thing I saw once, and it's on different levels, is at a Colorado Avalanche game. It's about a minute and a half left in the game, and instead of playing music or like crowd prompts, they just put up on the video board, "All you fans." So 18,000 people stood up the rest of the, that minute and a half, 2 minutes, and it was just them cheering. It was like so simple, right? That little.
Simple is, there's so many things that you can do that are simple and you don't even think about it, like a camera angle. We talk about that all the time with our friends watching college basketball. But my wife's mom was at the Super Bowl, and they're like, "Well, we were on the back of the stage. We couldn't see much. We're watching this thing on the jumbotron. I'm like, we're in the arena. It should be an open thing where I can see kind of everything, but that doesn't translate well for television. And there's billion dollar it's a $1 billion industry, the Super Bowl televised.
Yeah, it's a funny balance. And I think there's ways for probably broadcast partners to increase that experience. I think they're so worried and fixated on making the actual the event, the actual product. But I think they should do more personally.
Yeah, I think, and we took too long to get to this, and now it's a good thing I have it on the screen. You have a book, King of Cheer. It's out now. I don't know why we forgot to.
I do.
King of Cheer. What made you write it? What made you write it? How did it?
Yeah, I mean,
process?
for years, I used to have an actual journal when I'd get on a plane before, you would travel with the laptop. I've been doing this so long. And I would write down stories of what happened that night in Austin or, Charlotte or wherever it was. And then I got a laptop and I'd start to open my laptop because after a gig, I'd write down because I knew I'd forget that, like, that night in wherever this happened. So then I started to put together a collection of stories, and it's just a collection of short stories with sort of like, I wouldn't call it play by play, but like some extra anecdotes and some fun filler from athletes, team executives, friends, people that have been part of my journey. And I threw it together. I started it before the pandemic and I finished it during the pandemic and I launched it during the pandemic, which was, I'm not sure which one was harder, but I'm really proud of it. It's a collection of, it's a journey, it's my journey.
I'm definitely looking forward to reading it. Did you do any book tours? What?
I mean, I've done like mini book tours. It's like not. I have plans to still hopefully do one, and I'm doing an audio book now. So I'm going to get out there on a bigger level. It's been challenging, obviously, with the way things have been, but yeah, I definitely plan on pushing it.
So you've been recognized at this point in your career. How much are you having to go out and get jobs, and how much is jobs coming to you?
That's a funny question. If you'd asked me, wow, I think it's a bit of, that's a great question.
And obviously both, but is it 50-50? Do you find one more than the other?
Well, in the sports world, it's like, hey, I'm here. Don't forget me, right? Because all these teams, every game, they have all their stuff they need to do. I'm just an extra thing. So like, why would you know what I mean? Whether it's me or the funny popcorn dancer, whoever it is, right?
They now have a position that kind of handles, right? I mean, that's who you're talking to, is the in-game entertainment,
Yeah,
and engagement,
dude, it's huge now. I mean, when I started off, there was no director of entertainment. There was no, the t-shirt gun hadn't even been, invented, and that's why I got this gun. But now, now it's like massive departments, and Vegas had like, I think they had 7 full-time staff just in their entertainment department, like, which is nuts. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's bigger than it's ever been. It's more important than it's ever been. We're competing for so much attention, and we're trying to create those moments and memories for people. I mean, it's moments. Nobody remembers the tweet of the game, but they'll remember getting up and dancing. Right? That's sort of been. It's just true, right?
We were at the Gator basketball game with my friends, and the one son who I was telling you about is always the class clown, and he gets up on the jumbotron and starts like gyrating his hips and doing like this. And I was at a bar mitzvah, and the funny thing is that the son, the brother, which is my friend's son, the younger one. His name is Cameron, and they're running into the crowd, and he gets here, and he's like, his move is all doing like the hip gyration stuff, and like, it's great. Everyone wants to be on the jumbotron, and like, what do? Do I take a selfie? Or you do something funny? Something crazy? So it might. I don't know that it'll go viral, but whatever. You all of a sudden your phone's buzzing, and everyone's saying, "Man, I just saw you on TV."
Yeah, it's a funny phenomena that literally that 15 seconds that people want, and people, it's just to be part of the experience, right? It's just this little level of like, wait a minute, I'm part of something, and part of something special. And for me, I celebrate that with people. Once I've done my big opening hit, it's all about like getting other people involved. And for the most part, the best moments are, not on the big board for me. They're like that real interaction with fans and making them the stars of the show.
Yeah. You also do a lot of speaking, conferences, company events, teams. When did that start, and how often do you do that?
Yeah, that's something I've been doing kind of off and on throughout my whole career, but really ramped it up in the last 4 years of hosting and doing keynote talks for sales companies and leadership events, etc. It's all about bringing the energy to the room. It's the same thing I do at the sporting events. So I bring my energy in, and then I share stories and bring people on this journey with me, but making it about the audience of like, would you get up at an event, having more confidence, cheering yourself on. So a lot of the sort of important elements that I've learned in my life by putting myself out there, and how other people can see that and be inspired by it.
And aside from the stories, a lot of that message is in the book, right?
Yeah, a lot of the messages are sprinkled in the book without being like, in bold, if that makes sense. They're part of the story, right? I mean, I'm not here to lecture anyone. I'm here to share, the best of what I've learned, and want people to find little nuggets if they can.
You do a lot of events in the U.S. Why don't you live in the U.S.? Is it the healthcare up there?
I lived in LA for 16 years, moved up here a year ago. So
Okay,
yeah,
so you were living.
I should get the as long I'll end my career. I've got 8 more states to go and 1 more Canadian province, and then I'll be done.
Okay.
It's hard to get to North Dakota though. I don't know if they have a lot of gigs.
Oh man, North Dakota's got some really good college football. That's
Okay.
great. Have you done a lot of colleges? I can't
I've done a
imagine.
bit. Yeah, I mean, not a ton. I don't love doing colleges, and I'll tell you why. I think the students should be doing it, not me.
Yeah. And then the older alumni who've been fans for 80 years, they don't care about that. Some
Yeah.
of them don't.
I've had some great college moments, some funny, obscure, like wacky places. But when I'm asked to do college, for the most part, you know,
Where you do a lot of hockey, is there a sport or that kind of is better than others? Is there a type of is it indoor arena, a stadium? I assume an indoor arena is better than a stadium, but
yeah. I mean, I think it's like there's a intensity to hockey. There's an intensity to indoor lacrosse that I've done a lot of NLL lacrosse in the past, because they play music during the whole event. Um, I mean, for me, when you ask that, I think of just having just as much fun at a minor league baseball game, like outdoors. I just love the intimacy of a crowd. I walk into a stadium, I get goosebumps. It's empty, and I'm like, wow, we can really work this tonight.
that's awesome. And probably a smaller event better than 90,000 people, though you can really get 90,000 riled up.
Yeah.
But you can get
There's a video of me performing at a Rams game at the Coliseum a few years ago. And I got up, and the crowd doesn't know what's going on, because it's such a crazy stadium, right? It's so intimate. There's no real breaks. Everything looks like everyone's on top of each other. And there's like 8 guys that try to jump in the video to try to get on the video board at the Coliseum. And it's just it's insane. There's 75,000 people. You know what I mean? You just see this little guy in a white shirt in some of the other videos, and you're like, did it work? I'm like, I guess so.
Yeah. It's hard to, in some cases, it's hard to not work, because there's some really great fan bases out there who they go there to be excited about being there. And even teams that don't win, it's not always about winning and losing too. There's so many great fan bases of perennial, I don't want to call them perennial losers, but teams that don't win a lot. and their fans show up and they're sold out for a ton and they love going every week, even though they know we're probably not going to be there at the end.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge element to it. I look at minor league sports when you said that, and I think of a lot of the minor league cities I've been to in across Canada and the U.S. in hockey, basketball, baseball. And there's a team in Bakersfield, California, the Condors, the hockey team. Like hockey in Bakersfield, I think they've been doing it 20 years now, and they just promote. It's like no one. Their whole tagline is "No one has more fun than us," and it's like constantly moving that needle of doing things for their fans, and it works. People go to the game and if they win, it's awesome. And now the team's an AHL team, and they want to win, but it's that mindset of like, no matter what happens, we're going to entertain you. And, every team has to catch on to that at a whole other level. Right.
Yeah. We went to SoFi Stadium in September for the Rams home opener. The next day we were in Vegas at Allegiant. I think SoFi is the nicest stadium or arena I've ever been to or seen. Allegiant is very nice, but it's twice as expensive, and I don't think it's as nice. Would you have an arena or a stadium that you think is like just the best? Whether it's
it's interesting you say that. We did a talk for Populous, which designs stadiums, about a month and a half ago, talking about how to create intimacy within stadiums so that people feel connected. Did SoFi Stadium feel that, or was it just like so nice? Or
it's big, but it is. There's not a bad seat in the house, and it does feel connected. The Jumbotron's beautiful. It's not obnoxious like Jerry's World, which I think is I hate that stadium. I don't know if you've ever performed or been in it.
No, I haven't, but I think that I personally think big jumbotrons are like the dumbest idea in the world. They don't make sense to me.
Well, you need it if you've been there, because when you're at a certain place, you can't see the game. So
yeah, Seattle Kraken have no video board in the middle. They have one on each end to keep the intimacy of the arena. I haven't been there yet, but I think that's brilliant. I mean, at the end of the day, focus on the event.
Yeah, I think so too. How about when you're there and eating food? Food's a huge part of the fan experience. Is there like what do you usually get? And is there baseball for me has the best food of any sport?
Yeah, why is it baseball cares more? Is it because they're sitting longer? Or what? Why is that? You think?
It's weird. They're always so original with their food. You go to a football game or hockey game, it's like, all right, do you want a hot dog, chicken fingers, or pizza?
Yeah.
You go to baseball, it's like you get the stuff that people wouldn't even ever eat. They're like, man, I'm not eating that.
Yeah.
And that's the time I go and get it. Like I was at Jerry's World and I got the huge hamburger with my brother, and we, I think it's great to be able to bring in like food. Miami Marlins have, Cuban stuff like local. So I think it's great to be able to bring in, because food and drink and all this stuff, it's all part of the fan experience. People will go to a stadium because of the food.
100%. I mean, I remember going to Staples Center and they had a local sushi company. I was like, I can get sushi at Staples, like back in Staples. You know what I mean?
You mean crypto? I think you mean crypto.
Crypto, sorry. And anyhow, like, because I don't go to as many events as I used to, because you know why. But I couldn't believe it. I was sushi at a hockey game. It was years ago. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a big miss to not play up the local element. Like, if you're in Nashville or New Orleans and cities that have like there's something special about that food. I think it's just lazy, because it is part of the fan experience. Here's the point. Tickets are part of the fan experience, right?
Mm.
Food is part of the fan experience. Parking is part of the fan experience. All those touch points that make me feel part of something is part of the fan experience, right?
Yeah, I love the progressive commercials. Like, don't be like your parents when they're going to the football games. Like, man, this is prime. They make a lot of money for parking. And then he's like, "Are we leaving third quarter?" And you ever seen those? He's like, "Let's not talk about when we're leaving before we get into the stadium."
Yeah.
There's some great commercials there. Tickets. I wanted to ask you about tickets. Do you have the ticket for the first game, that Ottawa game that you were at?
Tragically, no, I don't. I have some, lanyards, as you can see back there, from a lot of the events I have. I've kept just about everything I have. I have quite a ticket collection, and passes from all the events. And they're, even the jerseys. I mean, you can't see them all, but there's probably about 80 jerseys up. I have about 300 total. they represent something for me. Like, like the bees, the Rio Grande Killer Bees, they're right there. Me performing in Rio Grande at the Killer Bees All-Star game, and I got that retro jersey. It just makes me, I don't know. It's great moments, like hard work, and I got there. I got to be part of something special. So I love collecting that stuff.
Yeah, I think people want to collect something that reminds them of whatever it was, be it, and they're buying hats and jerseys. It's a little excessive. I understand why you have so many jerseys, but if you're not traveling to all these games, it's a little hard to have. So I have a ticket time. I made a ticket time machine jersey, but it's hard to. I mean, how many jerseys and shirts and hats can I get? So you have to kind of get creative, and that's why I think we are really going to excel once we start to offer this stuff to the fans because there's it's different. A ticket for this game is different than another game. A lot of different things happen. Was there a game that you've been to that had some type of crazy milestone or something that was so memorable happening? What are give us some of those moments?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to add one thing to what you said because I think it's really important. Is that if we haven't, in the last 2 years, if we've learned anything, it's to create more magical experiences for ourselves. And with what you're doing, it's like you're going to be able to keep those moments alive by, you know what I mean, by celebrating, going to those events. You know what I mean? And people want to remember that through something, not just a sweaty T-shirt. My 1,000th game in Ottawa. I started in Ottawa January 8th, '94, and on my 1,000th game, I did it there. And I mean, I've only been introduced twice in my entire career, and that was the one time where a friend of mine, his name was the in arena announcer, and he introduced me, and I was so nervous. I was like, wait a minute, I've done this 1,000 times. I was like, ah! That was one of the most special games ever, for sure.
That's unbelievable. That's a moment. But what I was talking about, like, were you at a game and Lemieux had 5 goals, or
Oh, sorry.
like a milestone, something crazy happened? That's part of history, and it's cool that you were there for.
Oh, I mean, just a couple of things. Jeremy Lin's breakout game at Madison Square Garden was pretty cool. That was insane. You remember that? And
Yeah, of course.
I was performing at that, and the head of entertainment for the Knicks said, I'll have you at every game, and if they win, I'll pay you. If they don't, I don't." I'm like, "What?" And then being at the in Cleveland when the Cavaliers won the NBA Finals. I mean, they won it in Golden State, but I was in Cleveland at the Q Arena. That was unbelievable. That's a great question. I got to go back and think of more of those.
There probably some of them are in the book. I don't know. I mean, my whole ticket time machine all started when Edinson Volquez threw a no hitter. I was at that game. Never seen a no hitter before. By the way, top 5 non-Gator championship moment of my. All the championships I've been is always going to be better than that. But man, that's a top moment of my life as a sport. To watch a no hitter live is the tension and the excitement and nervousness, and it was crazy. So I remember I still have the ticket from that because they actually announced if you want a ticket, come to the box office. So I went because I had a mobile. I didn't even think about it at the time, and then I went.
They announced that.
Yeah, they said if you want a ticket, come to the box office, and that's how Ticket Time Machine started. Because when I went up to them, I said, "Can you put Edinson Volquez no hitter on it?" They said that they couldn't. I know that they can because that's the business I was in, and now a big thing for me is people saying I can't when they really mean I won't or I don't want to. And find something that people
not today, not tomorrow. No.
Yeah, find something that people don't want to do. You don't have to find something people can't do. That's very difficult to find things that people can't do. But it's very easy to find things that people won't do.
It's a great point. What's your favorite sporting event moment?
Man, it's probably was a national championship for either the Gators. But I got called at halftime to do Name That Tune at a basketball game. I was so nervous and I was terrible at it, but that was a memorable game for me. I've been to so many. My friends and I go to a different city every year and go to college football, pro football, and Major League Baseball. So I've been very fortunate like you, to be at a lot of different games, a lot of different arenas, and a lot of different states. So we just celebrated our 20th year
Wow.
And so we've been to a lot of different places, and everything has to be in an NFL. So there's certain places we haven't been to, but I want to do stuff. And my friend's been to all the Major League Baseball teams. He's now been to so many different, like he does colleges. He'll fly to two different colleges, and he has no skin in the game just to go to see unique college stadiums for football. And I'd love to get to do that. I'd love to do it for Ticket Time Machine, but I'd also like to do it personally,
Yeah.
which brings me to my next question: is how often do you go to a game just to go to a game that you're not paying? And when was the last time you kind of just sat there as a fan and didn't perform? You could get up and cheer within the flow of the game, but not performing, not doing
Well,
it.
the NHL All-Star game, I didn't perform. I should have, because they needed it, and you can quote me on that. Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me, and then it's fun for me once I let go. Once I just and then sometimes my friends are like, just shut it, just stop, because I'm like, oh, why didn't they do this? Oh, they should have done this. But I've stopped doing that. You know what I mean? I enjoy going to games now and just letting loose and just watching it. And I'm also like, if I'm at a game, and I remember being at a LA Kings game years ago, not that many, like 4 years ago, and I messaged the head of entertainment what I really liked about the game, and she was like, "Oh my God, thank you for sharing that with me. It means a lot to hear that from you," as opposed to, "Hey, why didn't you do this in the intro?" We see things, you see things differently than we both do. I can tell, right?
Yeah. Some of it depends on how old you are, who you are, what, maybe it's not the sport that you're the biggest fan of, or where am I sitting, right?
Yeah, all of that. I mean, it all adds up. And I think for me, it's like, that's part of the success of my career, to be fair, is listening to crowds, right? I don't get up every whistle. I don't get up every play. I've got to watch the flow, and I've got to listen to them. And you know how you said that, you find some fans annoying. It's like, probably because half the time they're speaking or doing stuff when they shouldn't be.
Yeah. Timing is always
timing is a huge thing, right? And I think that's, there's parts of my book to talk about the timing, and there's been moments where I've got up and the timing was awful and I didn't read it well. I'm like, oops.
What I always have this argument with my friends when we're going. Would you rather be first row behind the goalie, behind the basket in the end zone, or like 25 rows up mid ice, mid court, midfield?
Mid ice for sure.
Yeah.
I think you feel the energy of, I've been obviously a lot of stadiums, 350 maybe. And I want to be able to feel the rest of the crowd,
Yeah, I need to be able to see the game too. Also,
that helps. Look, Don't get me wrong. If you can get glass seats to an event, try it out. Right?
Yeah, it's great. I've sat there
behind the plate, or
I saw a story. Speaking of fans, did you see this story about the and I don't even know where it was, a hockey coach, and the lady had ice glass seats, and she saw a mole on the guy's back and to get it checked out.
Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, I think that was on SportsCenter or something. I mean,
that's
crazy. There's another fan that we heard a story about, like, no fan left behind. The Bengals, where they brought shirts at the T-shirts. There was a Chiefs fan whose husband died, and they brought her. She collaborated with all these fans, and they're wearing these shirts. No fan left behind. All these Chiefs fans, and they were passing out shirts at the Super Bowl, because you can't put a sign. Speaking of that, what's the best way to get noticed besides just pure luck? Wearing, let's say wearing, obviously, is there something to wear, a funny shirt, or just like dress up, in one of those outfits where your face is cut,
I think it goes back to timing, and really timing and go in the aisle. I mean, my whole career started off in my seat, and then the reason it worked is because the next whistle, the next break, I went to the aisle and started going up and down the aisle. If I'd stayed in my seat, I don't know if I'd be talking to you right now. You know what I mean?
Is the usher dancing, is that all staged?
95% of it, yeah.
I have video of it. I was at a music concert, and it was below, so it wasn't on camera or anything like that. very few people saw her. This usher was dancing like crazy. She was just, and I said, I think I tweeted her Instagram. I like, live your life like this lady's doing. She's
Yeah.
working and she's having a great time. And so much is like your stuff is manufactured, but it's real, right? Does that make sense?
Well, I give a shit.
Yeah.
Pardon my language.
We've had a lot worse on this.
But I genuinely care about people, you know, and I think at the end of the day, people say, oh, you know, anyone I've dated, a girl, oh, you're way too into sports. I'm like, I like sports, but I like people. I like seeing people have fun. I like seeing people smile and laugh. And that's why I get into it, because it's the raw emotion of people's energy that I feed off, right? I mean, yes, the game, if it's exciting, obviously you feed off that too, because you know the crowd comes up with you, and if they score a big goal in the third or a big play in basketball, whatever it is, you feed off that. And so for me, it's that connection with people that truly drives me.
Who's the best fan base you've been around?
I mean, that's
besides the Knights, of course.
well, in hockey, I mean, the Knights are in the top. I just say the best is always.
Yeah, your favorite. How about your favorite, or not your favorite, but you know what I'm trying to ask.
Well, you know, one of my favorite like places, experiences, and teams is actually the Oklahoma City Thunder. I used to do a lot of games there, and when they were, you know, hot, they're just the fans were electric. They were kind. They were fun. The team was great. The organization was great. And I would put them at the heat in the big moment. They were the top NBA fan base for sure. You know,
they were. So Trey Mann was a Gator. I know everything's Gators, but he was Gator. He was their first round draft pick, and their other first round draft pick just was the youngest person to do back-to-back triple doubles. And Trey Mann played in MSG last night and had a career high 29. Something about Madison Square Garden. I grew up in New Jersey, and it's just something about Madison Square Garden. There's no bad seat in the house there, first of all.
No.
And it really is the Mecca. You've been there. What's a bucket list for you that you haven't done? Either an event and an arena.
Probably Super Bowl. You know, I thought of going to the Super Bowl and just like doing my own thing there. And then I was like, nah, because if it doesn't work, mind you, if it doesn't work, nobody would know I even tried.
Yeah. And it's expensive.
Yeah, an expensive trial or a great return on investment, right?
Yeah.
Super Bowl, you know, I want to do a gig in every state, every province. You know, I've got one province and eight or nine states to go. And I wouldn't mind trying it I've done it in Asia, Europe, and North America. I'd like to try like Africa. A baseball game in Japan would be.
Oh man, I've been to one. Those fans are rabid.
The Nippon, someone rather.
Who the heck did we go to? I think it was. Man, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you a funny story. So they don't speak English, the fans there.
Yeah.
And they have a thing where they blow balloons in like the seventh inning stretch, and you buy these balloons, you blow them up, and you let them go. So the time comes, and I'm trying to blow up this balloon, and I can't blow up the balloon. I don't know why I can't blow up this balloon. And this lady's coming behind me, and she's like yelling at me, laughing at me, yelling at me to try and instruct me how to blow up the balloon. But she's speaking in Japanese. I don't have a clue what the heck she's saying. And all of a sudden, me and this group of five of us, I just can't get this balloon to go. But it's a really Japanese baseball. I would recommend. I've been to a lower level soccer out in Europe.
Yeah,
but, you know, those are some really great atmospheres. You know, I think we have great atmospheres for stuff, but man, some of those games are they're something.
Well, that's the irony too. Is, you know, having performed at some events, you know, different parts of the world, is they all think that we've got it figured out in North America, and then North America, when we watch them, and you're like, no, that's better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The way they sing songs and the way they, you know, different elements.
What are the easy low-hanging fruit states that have a lot of events that you haven't done? I mean, 8, you're going to talk about North Dakota, South Dakota. You've done Idaho?
Idaho, yeah. Hawaii, no. Hawaii, Alaska, North Dakota, Maine, Montana. And Oregon, actually.
Montana's got Oregon is weird. Montana's got some great college football too, and some good minor league
I'm going
teams.
to put you in charge of that. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll send you your commission.
we'll do a ticket for the game too, and have you
Exactly.
there. Yeah. We're going to let you go on the same question we let everyone go on the Wolff Den. You can spend a day. Actually, you know what? Before I ask this, I wanted to talk. Once you're done with that, what do you do? Do you write another book? Do you just do speaking? What's the plan?
If I'm in a wheelchair doing this, because I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm more speaking events, working on some fun media projects, maybe a book, maybe about the best fan experiences. I'm in that headspace of like, what else can I do? And it's like a fun place to be, because I feel like this book is like kind of like the bookend to like what I've done. It's like and with the pandemic, I didn't think I'd still be doing as many events now, but you know what it is though. I will say this real quick. I'm just grateful for every opportunity, and if I'm not, I shouldn't be going,
It's what game would you pay? What event would you pay the most money for if you had to pay to go as a fan, just to go see
Oh, Madison Square Garden.
a game, like just
Yeah,
a playoff game,
absolutely.
NBA Finals?
Yeah, NBA Finals, Madison, or the NHL Finals, Ottawa versus Vegas.
What about like Olympic USA versus Canada in Olympic final?
Yeah, well, I was there, so
We just beat the Canada team, but
yeah, it's not over yet. Wait,
not,
hold your horses.
it's not all the real players, right? All
Yeah.
right. So the question that we let everyone go with is: you can spend a day with anyone in the world. They have to be alive, and you can't be related to them. Who would you pick, and what would you guys do?
I would pick Roger Federer. He would pick me up in Switzerland and his helicopter, and then we'd go to his house and we would play tennis, and then we'd have lunch, and then we would do an Instagram live with fans around the world. I don't know.
No, that's cool. Federer, someone told me you can book him, like companies or whatever. Anyone can book him. It's like $1 million for 24 hours or something like that. Something crazy too. But he literally starts a clock the second you get there, and then have at it. So that would be
Yeah, I mean, I did his charity event, and he's just such a gentleman, and I think it'd just be, it's just, yeah, he's a gentleman, and I think it'd just be fun just to hang.
That's a good pick. I forgot to ask you. Has anyone ever brought you in to do a wedding?
No, but I've had friends ask me not to.
Yeah, yeah. We always get friends ask us to not do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Check out the book King of Cheer. It's on the website CameronHughes.tv. Follow on Instagram and Twitter, and looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, we got to. I've done a few podcasts since and live shows like this and things, but I did actually meet a guy in Vegas who had me on his show, which was really cool. But dude, you and I at a game would be interesting.
Do it next year in the Super Bowl. I'm going to be there.
Would be annoyed by us, but it'd be fun.
next year, let's do it. We'll find a way.
You never know.
Yeah, we'll be sharing this on Instagram and Twitter also, so we'll get some.
Well, I appreciate you having me on and your awesome, thoughtful questions, and I love what you do. So we'll keep spreading it.
Appreciate it. We'll talk soon. Everyone, tune in on Thursday.